Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
All right, guys. So, as you know, if you listen to the podcast, Scare Package 1 and 2, VHS 85, and Frogman have all been really favorite films of ours. And they all also happen to feature actress Chelsey Grant, who was gracious enough to chat with us tonight about those films and her career in general. So, welcome to the show, Chelsey.
Gracious enough. Thank you. That's so cool.
Well, you keep
Thanks,
making all
y'all.
these movies. I'm glad
I
you just found
know.
some time to be able to sneak in for us, you know?
I'm a lucky duck. Yeah. Getting those is just the slew of those all kind of hit in a very succinct amount of time. So I just feel like I caught the parade. I lucked out to be able to join this genre within a short, a few years. So that was pretty
Those
pretty
are
lucky.
all really highly regarded
Yeah.
films from the horror community. I mean, everybody loved all of those films, at least in our circles. We loved them, and then we spread the word for the ones that weren't out yet, and then ended up all of our friends loved them as well. So that's pretty awesome.
That's so nice to hear. Just because we have a nerdy blast making them, and so it's always heartwarming when a few other horror nerds out there feel the same in any capacity, even just a little bit. We're like, oh, heck yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm glad.
Well, the horror community is so good anyway.
Yeah.
I think we all have kind of a shared passion for these things, and it definitely comes across when we talk to our friends and stuff. They tend to, usually it's something that Brian and I like, the rest of the horror community likes. It tends to go that way. We kind of all have the same mindset. So before we get started on your films, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started in movies?
Sure. So I've been acting professionally for over 14 years now, but I've been doing performance since I was really young. I started like dancing when I was 3, and then moved into musical theater, and then straight theater, and then on camera. I got my BFA in acting, which was based in stage, but I took some on-camera classes, and then about the last 6-7 years has been mostly working on camera. The last stage show I did was pre-pandemic, and I started leaning pretty heavily to indie filmmaking. Obviously, the horror genre has been a favorite of mine to audition for, a lot of drama, and then I do voiceover and commercial too. So I've been full-time the last few years as an actor, and based in Minneapolis. It's like very atypical, and every day I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of me. But I realized a lot of the stories that I love to tell usually tend to lean into drama, and I noticed that there was a lot more of that going on in my market at the time, so on camera as opposed to on stage. So that's when I started really honing in on those skills, and that's when I met Anthony Cousins the first time around for auditions, and that's kind of the whole slew that ended up in the really nice rolling of a bunch of horror films coming out one after the other.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
And so you've done, like, I've seen a bunch of all the examples of all this on your site, and all these different projects you worked on, and you were amazing in all of them. But do you have a particular favorite that you like to do out of those?
Oh gosh, I think I've always been a sucker for slice of life drama, leaning psychological, leaning thriller, which is why I think when I had never done horror at all in my life, acting wise, or even watched, I think I'd watched one horror movie before I met Anthony Cousins in a shoot that was very dramatic. We met in the lunch line at Crafty. And I had no concept of the community surrounding it or the amazing fun stories getting told. And so I lean dramatic, but that's kind of what's allowed me to branch off is because I think heavy drama can pave its way pretty easily for comedy, and horror and psychological and thriller. So I say core is drama, but I kind of I'm a nerd. I like all of it.
Well, you're
I
welcome here
do.
then. We are
Yeah.
as well. And you actually made me feel sad for a puppet. I watched that New
Oh,
Market short. That like I was like a little sad because that little puppet was left out, and it
I was too.
it's
Yeah, that particular short, that guy, I'm actually seeing him this weekend for a show. He's incredible. He's a puppeteer. He used to work on both coasts for Disney parks as a
oh wow.
puppeteer at the park. He's phenomenal. And I had never worked with a puppet. Got on set, and that was a less than 12-hour turnaround. The lead got sick.
Oh
I was
no.
learning lines on set, and I was a bit out of my mind. But you are right. You do feel bad for a puppet because it's a human.
Yeah.
It's I saw him. The puppeteer had. I didn't realize. I don't think I actually really ever looked at him ever during the whole shoot. I felt bad, but then it was fine after. But he left the puppet on a couch at one point for lunch, and I had to like I was. I definitely sat there, not a tear in my eye completely, but I was very upset to see him just like with his mouth hanging open with no one bringing life to him. He's just like flopped over on the arm of the couch. It was very disturbing. So yes, you definitely apply a full-on human soul, or anthropomorphic soul into that character. And yeah, that was a fun time. I
Yeah.
hadn't talked about that one for a while.
Yeah, wait, and you did such a good job too because you didn't act like you were acting with a puppet at all. Like, so that
Oh,
helped, I'm sure, everyone get into that whole mindset of like, okay, this is like a person. I
yeah,
mean, yes, he's in
little
puppet form,
Perry.
but yeah.
Yeah, little Perry the puppet. And yeah, he got such his cute little voice, and he was just so charming, and he just I don't, there was something about him that he just hooked everybody immediately. Really talented actor. But yeah, that was such a yeah, I didn't get into acting thinking, I want to act with puppets, or I want to be hit with a blood cannon, or
And now
I
you've
want
done
to
it all.
no, oh
Yeah.
God, that's the perk of the job. It keeps you on your toes. So I'm grateful that people want me to learn new skills to do these types of stories. It's pretty cool.
That's
So,
awesome.
so Chelsey, you've done this one. I'm kind of interested in because you've done a few found footage films now,
Oh
and
yeah,
do those? How do those differ from like your more traditional acting roles, which are not found footage and are more traditionally scripted?
sure. In the best way, they're brutal. They're brutally honest. I love them. I love doing them, but they're since the camera is fully a character, and when I was studying and watching old family tapes, and what did people do in the 80s, particularly when a camcorder was on them, what do we do now that it's more everyone's phone? How do people react? And it's sometimes like a hammy heightened version of yourself. Well, that can kind of come off as bad acting. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the fight of, when are you being genuine? When is your true character doing a bit of a bit, authentically? When do they forget it's there? When do they acknowledge it? And just essentially making sure that they're immersed enough in the environment, but not too, spearheaded and hamming the camera up. And I think I've done three now in the last few years, and two that have been out and one that's in post, and it's been really cool as an actor to have such an involvement like that, where the camera is truly another character.
Like, that's one of the things I loved about Frogman. I thought it came across as very authentic feeling.
I was just
Some
gonna say
Oh,
that exact thing. So that
really, yeah, because there
yeah.
are some found footage films that
Yeah.
it does come off as with found footage. I think it's particularly difficult because in a scripted movie you can maybe forgive some of the acting, but in a found footage film where it's supposed to be real, if the
mm-hmm.
acting's not there, it can pull you out of the realism of the movie. And I thought Frogman just did an awesome job with the realism of the way the families interact, the friends and families interacted and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think a big part of that is the core script from Anthony and John Carsko was absolutely what we initially went into the first 10 days of filming, which is what we thought was going to be done, 10 days and out, which is wild. But we ended up going back because a month later, because they assembled, edited, and looked over things, and it was a lot more poignant when you could tell characters were giving exposition. They were dropping hints, and the hints would drop so hard to the audience, like, this is this character's name, and this is this piece of information you need to know, wink wink. And so they were so flexible in those first 10 days with us really bending, and Nate, who plays Dallas, and Benny, who plays Scotty. It was really about melding the script with what we had in mind for characters, and then just listening to each other to make sure that it was but I mean, don't, part of my language, can I swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we were shitting bricks. We were the amount of times we asked John Carsko and Anthony, saying, do we even seem like we're friends? Are we mad at each other all the time? Do we look like we are friends? And that was a constant check-in. And sometimes they were so good, but sometimes they're like, we won't know until we can manipulate things, but we know you guys are being honest and in the moment, and friends don't always love each other or like each other. And so I just feel so grateful that the teams that I've been with, Mike P. Nelson on VHS 85, and Anthony and Carsko on Frogman, and then there's another film that's in post, and he was incredible as well. And just to be able to work through those characters authentically with the team as it's going is a challenge, but it's you feel so supported, so it's a good adrenaline, I would say.
It was funny too, because I was gonna say, like, now that just talking to you for this little time, and right before we started the interview, just I could tell like how natural your character really is, because like your character in that is like all bubbly and funny and stuff. And I'm like, now that we're talking to you, I'm like, you're like that character, so you are like perfectly cast for that, because you kind of just must have just ran with the little bit and just kind of be yourself in that, because you were kind of you're really you seem like really fun, you seem really like, I could. But and I could see you getting really into that, like the Frogman hunt at the same time. So it's like,
right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that. My favorite thing is that I found out we just did a cast commentary actually
for
a
the
bit
Blu-ray?
ago.
Oh, cool.
And
I can't wait.
know, and it was a really, oh God, it was such a beautiful experience to be there with the team and just cracking up and But I remember, I can't remember. Somebody had said. One of the reviews said I was annoying.
What?
And no, I'm not upset about it. I think it's hilarious because I actually describe myself as that. I'm loud. I'm definitely like, people were like, "Are you always this happy?" No, I'm a human. I have days, but yes, I'm a lot. And it's so funny because we just wrapped shooting on Scare Package 2. And they were talking about Frogman, this thing, Carsko and Anthony, and they had mentioned I'd put a tape in for it, but in my head I just didn't want to be like, God, they just worked with me, they're sick of me, I don't know. I'll put in a tape, but like I really wasn't talking to them about it because I didn't want to seem like I was overly eager, because of course I want to work with them all the time, but I wanted them to choose who was right for playing Amy and Frogman. And so I was pretty hush hush and focused on Scare Package 2. We wrapped filming and they were kind of like chatting with me about it. And I was like, I got guys, like, just choose who you want. And they're like, we'd like you to do it. I was like, okay, are you sure? So I chopped my hair so it would look a little bit different than Daisy. And we pretty much jumped right into production. And then I found out a few weeks into Frogman that they were writing Amy for me. And I was like, oh, no way, guys, no way. And then I felt a bit embarrassed that I was like probably tooth and nail fighting them, being like, you guys, you guys don't have to just be nice and ask me at audition. You don't have to, like, you don't have to. They're like, Chelsey, we want you to, which is really cool. I mean, how cool is that to have a bunch of incredibly talented, creative, passionate people want you to audition for their stuff. So I think I was just a bit embarrassed, but overall, I'm very grateful they pushed me to submit the tape because that was a wild, amazing ride to work on.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
So, of course, you first came onto our radar in the first Scare package and one of our favorite segments, which was The Night He Came Back Again, part 4. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go see it. But it was a hilarious nod to the slasher film and that never truly dead villain. So, like horror fans, like whether you just seen a slasher or millions like Tim and I, you can really appreciate that kind of thing. And we were also super glad that you came back in the sequel for another one of those, because that was a great story. But what was it like working on those Scare package films, knowing that, like, you're now parodying like something that everyone is so familiar with?
So that was my first horror movie ever acting. And like I had said, I'd only seen one horror, which was Children of the Corn. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
At least it's a good one though. Yeah.
It was, but it was just, I remember, I'm always usually game for trying something, because if it's nervous, scary, because I'm afraid to learn and be not great at it for a while, that's usually means you should do it, because you should challenge yourself. Or if it was scary because I'm like, oh God, just not my thing. No, I was scared, good scared. So when Anthony had asked me on this dramatic set in the lunch, crafty line, and he goes, "Hey, you like horror movies?" And I was like,
He like screamed you. He was like, "What's your favorite scary movie, Chelsey?"
Yeah, and God, I love Anthony, but I have that moment seared into my brain of this hilarious, meet cute and he was actually DPing on this piece. And so I didn't really see him. He was behind the camera the whole time. He's very much in his zone until he was like smack dab right next to me as I'm loading my plate up. And when he brought it to my attention, I had no clue I just knew in my head, I thought at first it's just a little short. I didn't hear much about this big anthology. I only got the material I was given, which is just a little bit of Daisy. And to me, I had told him, I go, "Hey, I'll be honest, like I'm trained, but I'm not really familiar with the genre." And he goes, "Good." And I was like, okay. And so I went into the audition. I was really prepared because I'm a nerd and I like to be prepared, but I didn't really necessarily watch a bunch of horror movies because I thought it'd be too overwhelming to try to juggle or try to emulate performances. So I just read Daisy how I thought she would be. And I found out later, Anthony said, that's the reason I wanted you for Daisy, is because, no final girl knows she's a final girl. They're all fighting for their life, right? And so since you're a dramatic actor, Chelsey, that's why I wanted you to audition, because you would be taking it out of everyone in the short anthology segment the most seriously, right? And so I was really grateful that he had such a clear vision for it, because I think I was able to really step into the confidence of becoming and feeling like Daisy, because I was just almost approaching it like I would a drama and allowing the other round and hilarious characters to kind of bounce off of me, which was so fun.
That's interesting, because that really worked that way. I think it worked so well because of that, because you almost see it like you had such a like almost like extra drama to it that made that sequence work so bad. Because you're right, like everyone else was kind of like in their like caricature of like a horror movie, but you were like this, like almost like this serious like ringer they brought in to do it, and it worked so well. You're so good in that.
Well, hey, there's no music on horror movie sets, so I'm super jumpy, so that's a perk. Is no one's like playing like the eerie like creepy stuff on set. So really, you're just like, I remember just getting in the zone. But then, in between takes, like after some of the blood cannons and things like that, until they said cut, like I could remember my shoulders just like, dropping, because I remembered like so many of these things are one take. So to me, doing that movie it's hilarious to watch it back for me because it was so serious for me as an actor. I took it seriously. Anthony was super good at communicating with me on more of a dramatic level at the time. In Scare Package 2, it was a way more open, I think, for understanding, since she had a bit more comedic levity, I think, in some parts of it, and it's just wild to me because in my head doing that, yeah, I was aware of the genre absolutely as an actor, but in character, this was the most serious thing that had ever happened to me as Daisy.
That's
Damn,
awesome.
damn, killing all my boyfriends.
I know that one of the best line. I think one of the funniest lines is when you're like, when the one guy gets like scared and he goes, "No, you'll be okay," or something like that. You're just like,
"Oh yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, you're
Drop
fine."
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it was so like natural like that. It was pretty funny.
I also want to talk about VHS 85 because that's one of our favorites. So what was it like working on that one?
Oh gosh. Well, the audition for that one was wild. It was in person, and casting director had called a few of us in specifically, and it was the big group improv auditions, and Mike P. Nelson ran them, and we were kind of going into a whole world of no idea, no clue of what's going to happen in this. So we did these awesome little, almost like found footage vignettes that he was kind of directing and just throwing at us, and it was so fun. And then I found out, I got my email and I found out that I was going to be playing Kelly, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Mike is so cool. And I found out that he had said, I want to take one of the most put together actors that shows up and just fuck her totally up, her face, everything. And so I was like, I feel so honored. You thought I was so
I was gonna say, because you have like you have a like, not to, I hope it doesn't embarrass you, but you have such a great smile, and then they go ahead and like kind of rip your jaw off. I'm like, the nerve, right?
Absolutely. And I was so excited because apparently, so Ryan Shadley and Becky Ingram, who are Anthony's go-to team for effects, also were working on VHS 85. And so when Mike had, I remember Ryan had said, "Oh, who's he going to choose for Kelly? Because they're really gonna go through it." And he was like, "Oh, Chelsey," and he was like, "Yes," because he's done way worse to me.
Yeah.
And Ryan and Becky and I are close, and so I went in pretty early on for the whole head cast, the jaw cast, and it was interesting because the jaw was like, and the head cast, like I had to have my mouth obviously kind of ajar, hanging, for some of the casting molds, and it was like it was essentially a retainer that I popped in, full of these tendrils of muscle and fat and teeth. On set, I'm really grateful that Ryan, Becky, and Mike Nelson gave me eye contact during the shoot because no one else did. Because they were it was pretty grotesque looking. And once you're in it, you're in it. Like I'm eating lunch with most of the pieces on. And we're when you're having like a hot dog and you're covered in all of these weird like tendrils and your teeth are out of place, it's just very disturbing. So it was like adult swim camp. I learned how to water ski in 2 days because apparently Kelly was supposed to be able to water ski. And they had the best stunt team. I love obviously the FX team, and then Mike was there, and then a bunch of the actors are all people I've worked with in the city before and on other movies. You'll see that some of them are in Frogman and some were in Scare Package 2, like Alex Gallick. And it's this cool family, and yeah, VHS 85 was a dream. It was truly a week away in Wisconsin, middle of nowhere, summer camp vibes, which
That's
is
awesome.
ideal. So
yeah, I was blown away by the gore and the violence in
Yeah.
VHS 85. It was pretty like, I mean, I watch a lot of horror movies, and that one even took me by surprise. Like,
Yeah, because I think
segments.
the found footage and the old VHS like
Yeah, like, it added
thing
that
of it makes it
realism
realistic
thing.
more,
Yeah, like
like
it was like,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was-
VHS
Yeah,
series have been good at that. They've always done like kind of. I feel like for found footage, it kind of set the bar really high with a lot of
yeah.
their things, even from the
And
very first
and
one.
they always seem to have like one
mm,
segment that like advances the whole genre in some
Yeah.
way. Like it does
right.
something so out of the box. Yeah.
Yeah, my personal fave, Ratma.
Oh,
Oh,
I love
Ratma, yeah.
Ratma.
And I did, so now what I do, because I will in the very beginning writing stages, if I know I'm going to be a part of something that's in the genre, I usually will ask, Anthony or Karsko, and also I remember asking Mike early on, like, hey, how do you recommend? I'm a few months out, so I don't want to do it right up, but like a few months out, what were you inspired by writing this or working on this, creating this world? So what movies should I not, of course, emulate, but keep in mind when it comes to what you were thinking of or what you were inspired by? And so now I've consumed more, obviously, than just Children of the Corn, but it's it's still like a huge journey for me. And I went to Fright Fest 2 years ago, and I just was able to start seeing even more. And the community is so cool. So I feel still like a little baby when it comes to my mind of like everything I've seen, but I feel really grateful to have been welcome in, you know?
Well, I mean, you've been in some ones that, like Tim said earlier, like the horror community just like really embraced. Like they love the VHS series and they love Scare Package. Because I remember when when that first one came out, they had sent us a screener and we were like blown away, but we couldn't talk about it yet. So we're like,
Mm,
ah, shoot, we gotta wait till it comes out on Shudder. Hurry up, kind of thing. So, but finally, I was so glad it like when it came out, and then like it like hit like we kind of knew it would, just because it's such a it's the whole thing is a love letter to the horror community. So
yeah,
it was
and it was
great.
pretty cool because you knew that the people that you were working with, number one, they really knew what they were talking about. And number two, they really loved it. Like so deep, their appreciation for not only the stories, but also the people that watch them. They are the people that watch them. And so there was a lot of heart put into it. So that's why I said, I don't know how the stars aligned to where I got to have that weird lunch line meet cute with Anthony years ago. I'm so grateful for it because so much of my film work the last few years has really ended up ebbing and flowing back and forth into that community. And yeah, gosh, it's so cool. I mean, I could talk about it forever. I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
So
No.
cool.
And it's great too that like because I'm glad you mentioned that Anthony's like that because he does. When we had him on, I was like, oh my God, he's like one of us. Like he's a fan first, and
Hmm.
and it just
Yeah.
happened to be a talented filmmaker also. It's like
And
so.
that always comes across. So like when
Yeah.
filmmakers are like huge horror fans, like you can tell. You can automatically
Yeah,
tell. Versus some
you
like
know.
studio corporate just making money type thing. You can always tell.
Hmm.
And usually the indie filmmakers are like that. I mean they
Yeah.
just have a passion for it because so
Hmm.
They have to. So I think, Tim, the next question we kind of already kind of touched on
yeah, we kind of
earlier.
touched on
We kind of
Frogman
went
earlier.
backwards a
Yeah.
little in the thing before, but so I'll do the next one. So we saw you recently actually had have a short called Visiting of Paris that
Mm,
not only did you star in, but you wrote, and it's getting some awards and stuff through the festival circuit. So
yeah.
congratulations, first of all.
Mhm.
And second of
Thank
all, like
you.
what can you tell us about that film?
Oh gosh. So that was shot actually pre-pandemic. Being an actor that is mostly 95% of the time of my job in life is acting. Um, yeah, it was a few years back. I knew I was going to be overseas in London for a period of time, and my friend Jeremy Strome, who's a writer director and acts as well, but mostly write, direct, and edits in Paris at the time. We had worked on something short here in Minneapolis. I had met him through a project, and then I had mentioned that I was going to be over there for a short weekend. And he was like, should we shoot something? Yeah, and of course, he'll really appreciate me doing a poor accent as well.
Oh no, our show is known for its bad impersonations and actions, and that one was like really good, actually.
No, no, oh God, he would tell you otherwise. Um, but yeah, so originally we were going to shoot a comedy, and what's interesting about life and being in the arts is like it's usually a lot of it reflected off of parts of your life. And so I had something, you know, happen in my life that I remember after I was kind of in the thick of it. I called Jeremy and I said, hey, you know, we don't have a lot on the docket yet for this comedy. Do you mind if we shift gears and we kind of go this slightly dramatic, ethereal, a bit odd route? Do you mind? And he was slightly sassy, but then he agreed.
Slightly sassy.
Let's say it's how he is. But
Put that
yeah,
on the
so
band name list, Tim. I like that one. Slightly sassy.
Slightly sassy. Okay, we got
Yeah.
a band name list.
just
Yeah.
a slight. Yeah, no, and he was incredible, truly. He totally helped me, you know, flourish the vision into becoming a not only a strong story, but cinematically strong as well. Because his vision's very clear for that. So we shot for just 2 days in Paris in early 2019, I think. And the movie actually got cut, dry, edited, finally completed, all the visual effects done this last July. So that
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, you know, and I remember I was, and it was just because, you know, he was full-time overseas, I'm full-time here. Your projects always end up sadly bottom of the list. But what was nice, it was only mainly us depending on getting that thing done. And it was mainly our project. So, you know, if we had other actors or something, you know, we of course would give them footage cuts or things, but really it was just getting the right composers together, getting the right visual effects. And actually, Pete West is one of the amazing guys who did the visual effects on Visit to Paris, who also worked on Scare Package 1, 2, Frogman. All like I didn't realize that I knew him until a friend was recommending me to him to help with Visit to Paris, and he was like, "Oh, I know you." I was like, I don't think we've ever met. But he was incredible. And so I had some amazing friends support me in finishing the project and encouraging me to say, you know, dodge the obstacles, get it out there. And I'm so grateful. It's been doing the film festival circuit for about a year. And we showed in Paris for one of the first screenings was in Paris. I was not there. They thought I was coming. I was like, oh, that's I was like, I don't think I have, you know, enough money just for a quick evening in Paris. But thank you for showing the movie. So yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not gonna do another short for a while. Focus. I love working on people's stories and fulfilling those things, and I didn't think I had much of a hankering for uh, always creating my own. I was, you know, I'm extremely excited to help flush out someone else's story typically. And then of course I got bit by the bug again a few months ago, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I just think once you've surrounded yourself with such amazing collaborators and you finally knock that thing out of post-production and people get to see it, it's pretty exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, I hope we get to see it sometime. I would definitely be interested.
Yeah, we have 2 more festivals that are just going through the last approval stages. And then after that, I'm going to release the thing so anyone can see it. It's only truly, after 4 years of being in post, it's only about 4-ish minutes long. But that's as much the effects and a lot of movie learning and things come with, you know, being on the actor side. I have such a great, deep appreciation for people on all aspects of film, honestly, but especially, gosh, post production is another mental stamina that I just deeply appreciate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Chelsey, this is a question we ask our guests from time to time. I always think it's kind of fascinating, the answers, but what's your dream project? I mean, if budget's not an issue, location's not an issue, like what would your dream project be? It doesn't have to be horror and it doesn't have to be in front of the camera necessarily. If you want to be behind the camera, what would be your kind of passion project?
And also say if your jaw will stay on or not in it too.
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah. Will the jaw be attached?
Yeah.
That's what I always thought. Okay, but I will say, side note, for Kelly in VHS 85, I was like laughing because I kept getting nervous that I was missing preparing certain lines because I knew I was in the scenes, but I was like, no, I literally cannot talk. Stop freaking out. Like you just have to look and be a bit horrified. But I kept thinking, I was like, do I have no, I don't have, I just have to be there. Okay, cool. And you know, choke on some blood perhaps. But gosh, dream project. I feel like I kind of have a split of two, and it's, one would be to go back to the stage and do either Shakespearean work, Chekhovian work, or dramatic Greek, and something that's really viscerally, just full of this giant reversal catharsis moment in a dramatic works that's a classic like that. I would love to do that. And I would say the other end on camera is essentially a much larger scale version of what I just did about 2 weeks ago, which I'm currently working on a short that was shot partially in London and the rest will be shot here in Minnesota. So we got all of our shots that we needed there, and the rest is going to be interiors here. And I would love to do a feature length or a series version of a character, not even just like the one I just did, but something with as much, I think, grit and depth. And like I like to say as an actor, like they've got a lot of meat that you can bite into when you read it, and that gives you that adrenaline of like, this is such an interesting person who has so many layers, that is imperfect and interesting and likable, and then all of a sudden you hate them but then you still like them, all those interesting things as an actor that are just delectable. I would love to do like potentially a series, I think, to follow a character, because one really cool thing about getting to do Scare Package 1 and 2 is I got to re-examine Daisy's mentality. And that was shot years later. And so it's not only had I grown as an actor, but also Daisy had grown. And so to me, I think as an actor, that would be like top tier, getting to work on a dramatic, some sort of series, Black Mirror vibes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love Black Mirror.
Gross, dark, too much. Like, something like that you could probably just kill me dead and I'd just be dreaming of that for the rest of my dead life.
Well, if you stay in the horror genre, you eventually get killed enough, so you'll be.
I've lived the kill dream, yes.
So is there any, like, I know you mentioned, and I would definitely don't want to get you kind of in trouble with any kind of embargoes or anything there, but I know you mentioned earlier you have another found footage. Is there any other projects that you can talk about yet, or is it all still? Oh, okay.
I can talk about that one. My last day in London, I think he had just sent me and the rest of the cast and crew some screen grabs, which I will not share, but I will say it's exciting. So it's called Old Wounds. It's going to be a horror feature. We shot it in Little Rock, Arkansas in November last year. And it was just a great time. Anthony was on, but he was on the crew actually. He's close friends with the director, Steven Nelson, who they had met, I think, in passing at some festivals and worked on some sets together. And so Anthony was actually on set, but not as a director. He was helping to grip and do some run and gun in between things on set. But we shot on this beautiful piece of land with this big home and a barn and a pond, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And it was really fun. And of course, all the nighttime shoots, like all horror movies, even though there's no creepy music, yes, it is creepy to shoot those scenes at like 3 a.m. It just is. But yeah, that one I'm not sure when it's coming out, but I know they're definitely pushing along pretty nicely in post. I think they've got a nice assembly edit done. So that means some exciting touches and creative things will be coming in, and hopefully we hear things soon. I have another feature that's I shot in Arizona, and that one's in post-production as well. And that's a kind of a thriller, psychological, bit of horror in there for sure.
Oh, nice.
I know. I was like, I didn't know I'd get blood, guts, and gore here.
I know.
I love it. And yeah, and then this has been announced, so I can say this, but Frogman 2 is in the works.
Yes.
I know.
Wait.
Woo!
I can't wait. We pushed him on that. We told him he had to do that.
We pushed him on Frogman 2.
Well, thank you. Yeah, he's sick of working with all of these awesome people. Me, he's probably the most sick of, truly though. But no, I just met with the team for the commentary, and I was actually supposed to see John. We're getting a coffee soon, the other writer, and they've got the outline done, and they have, I think, the first about 10-ish pages fleshed out. And so they're just trucking forward. So really excited to bring the band back together
Nice.
and see where the characters are at.
Yeah, that's all that. See, that movie is like right up me and Tim's alley because we're huge found footage fans and we're also huge cryptid fans. So
Oh,
anything you
so
do, like you
cool.
put the two together, it's like there was no way we're not gonna like it, but we didn't like, but it blew us away because it was so good. So
Oh.
it's like we are super excited for Frogman 2.
You like
Yes.
it because the wand, right?
Well, of course.
The
course.
wand.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just it was
Like,
just you know what it was? I love any kind of found footage where there's like a kind of like a quest involved. You know, like
we love a
I
quest.
think, you know, and I like
Mhm.
that, like when they look, or even documentaries where they do that, like any kind of like documentary or found footage where they're kind of searching for something, you know, it's not just like, oh, people are trapped in a house kind of thing. I mean, those are good too. But I'm saying like when,
Mhm.
but I love that added bonus of where you're like going for a quest, like when you're hunting for something or looking for something. It just always is an extra like oomph to me to like why I like those
Mhm.
movies. So
And I think like the strength of the relationship between the Quest and Dallas is so strong. And then it's interesting to see how Amy and Scotty have their perspective of the Quest as well. Obviously, it kind of morphs throughout, but Dallas is so spearheading for this. This will essentially solve all of my problems. You know, no one will make fun of me. I'll be taken seriously. All of these, I think he's thinking that all of his life's problems will be solved by proving Frogman exists. And that's why it's really cool that, you know, watching him go through the quest and then seeing everyone around him, you know, being loving and supportive, but also having to try to stay in the real world or getting sucked in with him. And that fight between, do we continue on the quest or do we try to live? You know, it's this, you
well,
know, but Dallas, crazy man, he just will keep
yeah,
going.
and it's interesting you said that because by him putting all that in, you basically naturally add the stakes up. You know, you raise
Yeah.
that stakes naturally just because now you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like, you know, you're rooting for him. You're like, I hope this guy
Mhm.
finds the frogman because if not, like, where is he going to go now? You know, so it was
I,
like,
yeah, yeah, he was holding the depth of stakes, I think, and that's a really nice underlying feeling, especially because Nate is hilarious. He's such a fun, goofy, unpredictable guy. So you know, when he'd be in Dallas mode, he has elements of him being Nate. They all Anthony and Carso kind of wrote each of the roles for each of us, which is so cool. But it's funny when I could see when he was like fully snapped in to like just this unrelenting pursuit of,
hmm.
and it's scary. And I remember, you know, in when you're so immersed in the scene, you're just you know, almost tongue tied for, I don't, you know, how do we move on from this? But you know, he just kept going. He just kept going deeper in the woods, deeper in the caves. Never, he's like, I don't think I'll ever go home. I want to live in the caves now. Like he's just
This is my life now. I'm a caveman. That's it.
yeah. Yeah, as long as there are frogs there, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Which is Anthony Cousins in a nutshell as well.
Yeah.
Just his commitment to frogs.
Well, he told us he liked
So,
cryptids. He told me about one in my area, like the Fresno Nightcrawler or something, where it's just a bunch of
the legs.
legs.
Yeah, the leg
Yeah,
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
that's
Now
creepy as
any
hell. I don't want to
it
see some
is
just legs. I mean, it's bad enough seeing a creepy thing in the front, but at least if you can look it in the eye or something. But now it's just
right.
legs. What are you going to look at?
Just legs, pair of
Yeah,
pants.
yeah.
Anytime we anytime it's awful. Anytime we see someone that's like crazy tall or it's like wearing like really great, like tall and they're really wearing really great pants, we'll be like, that's Fresno Nightcrawler. You should get their card just in case you make the movie and you need a tall pair of legs.
I hope he does, and he should come out to Fresno and film it, just because
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
drive
he
down and meet him and watch it. Shoot, that'll be
he
fun.
did, he did hint at
Yeah,
maybe a possible Nightcrawler movie one day.
yeah.
Yeah.
That man has so many amazing, crazy ideas in his head. And yeah, as soon as someone is halfway game around him to be like, yeah, you could do that, he just starts running, which is why he's so cool to work with. And he's constantly, obviously, watching movies all the time, but he's reading horror and you know, he's just so he's such a learner within the genre, and that's why it's so exciting to talk to him and to even hear about what his next maybe idea is, because yeah, he's just constantly evolving, and because he's excited, you're excited.
That's awesome. And yeah, we got that too when he was on. You could tell we were
Hmm.
talking. We almost felt like we were talking to just a horror fan, almost forgetting that he just directed this really cool movie. You know, it's like,
Right, right. It's yeah, he's an easy person to just, you know, imagine yourself creating with. And that's why I said, man, young me at 5, 6 years ago or whenever it was, meeting him for the first time, I would have no clue that now us being such close friends in this crazy horror movie like journey that we've been on was going to be the outcome of that. Me, you know, hey, at least I didn't lie and say, yeah, I'm like a horror movie pro. Because then maybe he would have been like, then don't show up because we want
see,
to,
honesty is the
you
best
know.
Yeah.
policy always.
Yes, yes, yeah. So yeah, I'm quite lucky.
So, Chelsey, before we let you go, where can our listeners find out more about you and keep up with your projects? Like, what's your socials and everything? If you want to give those.
Great. Yeah. So most of my updates on everything is on my Instagram, which is at Chelsey Grant _actor. That's where all my, if I work on any features, shorts, commercials, voiceovers, anything that I'm allowed to talk about, usually will go there with teasers and things like that. And then I do have a website, which is www.chelseagrant.com.
Which is a
You
great
can
website, even though you said you didn't update it lately. It's a good website.
Oh yeah, it's always a beast to update things as an actor, because you know your resume is always changing, and your headshots are always changing, and so it's I don't want update that one as much, but you can reach me both on Messenger on both of those platforms, and then otherwise, yeah, I think those are the main two. I mean, I don't know, snail mail. I'm not going to give you my address. I don't know.
No, don't. I've seen too many horror movies that start exactly that way.
Yeah,
But
no, otherwise, I usually will announce if I'm at before I go to certain festivals and things like that. I just went to one in London about a month ago. And you know, I went to Fright Fest 2 years ago. I traveled around quite a bit with Frogman and with certain projects that I can go to screenings of. Yeah, VHS 85, I went to some. If there's things that I can, I usually really try to go to. So if you're a horror fan and you want to, you know, nerd out with someone who's not as knowledgeable as you, but still is excited, I'll be there.
yeah,
Very
no,
nice.
and yeah, and it's I could say too, like it's fine. I was gonna just by interacting with you on social media and stuff, I like I got this vibe how nice and kind you were, but like you've proven it even more so now. Just it's like this was just a fun conversation to have with you because you could tell your passion is there, and it's always fun to see how real the person is along with the passion for what they do.
Oh, well, thank you. You both have been so beyond welcoming. The messages have been so kind. And then also just like getting to sit and listen to your podcast, even if it's like a short 10 minutes that I get to hear in the car on the way to an audition, or, you know, coming home after a long shoot day. Like that stuff is cool. It's like you're having like a nice, energized conversation with people who are super excited. And just as, like I said, this is a good thing, just as nerdy and passionate as I
Yes.
am. That's really cool. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much
you.
for coming on. And of course, if you have any other projects you want to
Yes.
promote, just drop us a line. We'll
Yes,
promote them
as
on
you can see,
socials,
I can
whatever.
Oh,
talk. So
Yeah, Ryan can
you
talk. He
need
could.
you need my big mouth to start spreading the word on something.
you
Just say the word.
know, you had me on here and now you know I can talk. I'm a blabbermouth, so I'm glad I revealed nothing that I wasn't allowed to. I did find out stuff about Frogman too. And Anthony and Karsko, look, I didn't say a word. I'm so good.
Yeah.
But no, thank you both. And thanks everyone listening. It was super fun.